Martin from the Philippines. We're here in Real Talk Lifeline. Welcome to Podcast Meditations and join us for the last episode of Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. So, the first 10 chapters have 10 challenges. Now we're down to the last chapter, chapter 11, and there is no challenge, but there is a what if. So, stay to the end if you want a surprise. So, let's get to it. Let me share my screen for all those on video, watching on video. Boom, over here. And let me get right to it. Chapter 11. What if? The previous January, I'd won a 100-kilometer glacial trail race called Frozen Otter. The weather can turn evil out there. Necessities we were required to have on us at all times so we wouldn't die of dehydration, hypothermia, or exposure. When we set off, the temperature was sitting at 0 degrees Fahrenheit. They say it takes 66 days to build a habit. For me, it takes a hell of a lot longer than that, but I eventually get there. Through trial and error and thousands of hours of training, I learned to maintain balance. Now, it was me who looked to be levitating over an impossible trail, and I finished the race in 16 hours, smashing the course record and winning the Frozen Otter title without losing any toes. I'd morphed so fast from an elite athlete capable of running hundreds of miles into a pretender who could barely muster the energy to tie his shoes, let alone run a mile without verging on collapse. I was in medical no man's land. So in this line, David Goggins' life took a turn where, he was hospitalized. I was dying and they didn't know what was killing me or how to heal me. Eventually, the pain became so bad I couldn't even get out of bed. Could this be the end? I was dying. For weeks and months, I searched for a cure to my medical mystery. But in that moment of catharsis, I didn't feel sad and I didn't feel cheated. I was only 38 years old, but I'd lived 10 lives and experienced a hell of a lot more than most 80-year-olds. No, I was done fighting, and all I felt was gratitude. In that moment, I knew it didn't matter if I ever ran again, if I couldn't operate anymore, or if I lived or died. And with that acceptance came deep appreciation. But lying in bed on that Chicago morning in the fall of 2014, I let all that judgment go. I released myself and everyone I ever knew from any and all guilt and bitterness. I just couldn't hate them anymore. I appreciated them. And as that feeling stretched out, my mind quieted down. I found peace, feeling as much gratitude as pain, as much appreciation as there was discomfort. One of my mottos these days is peaceful but never satisfied. It was one thing to enjoy the peace of self acceptance and my acceptance of the fucked up world as it is. But that didn't mean I was going to lie down and wait to die without at least trying to save myself. What was happening to you is an extreme case of what happens to 90% of the population, he said. Your muscles were so locked up that your blood wasn't circulating very well, and that's why you were shutting down. Stretching became my new obsession. I noticed the bump at the base of my skull had started to shrink, along with the knots around my hip flexors, and my overall health and energy level improved. I was off all but my thyroid medication, and the more I stretched, the more my condition improved. I kept at it for months and years. I'm still doing it. As for me, stretching helped me get my powers back. Eventually, I started running again, this time with zero side effects. And when I got back into decent enough shape, I entered a few ultras and returned to the top spot in several. Thanks to all that stretching, I'm in better shape at 43 than I was in my 20s. I could hear Tronus Jr., that's David Goggins' brother, on the other end of the line. I hadn't seen or spoken to him in over 15 years. Our relationship broke down the moment he chose to stay with our father rather than tough it out with us. For most of my life, I found his decision impossible to forgive or accept. But like I said, I'd changed. His 18-year-old daughter had been hanging out with friends in Indianapolis. A gun was pulled out, shots rang out, and a stray bullet found one of the teenagers. Nobody would tell him if his daughter was alive or dead. He broke down crying. Then I pulled my brother in for a hug, and all of our bullshit issues no longer mattered. The Buddha famously said that life is suffering. I'm not a Buddhist, but I know what he meant, and so do you. Humiliation, broken dreams, sadness, and loss. That's just nature. It's coming for you. You can't stop it, and you know it. The most important conversations you'll ever have are the ones you'll have with yourself. We are all our own worst haters and doubters because self doubt is a natural reaction. You can't stop it from blooming in your brain, but you can neutralize it by asking, what if? What if is an exquisite fuck you to anyone who has ever doubted your greatness or stood in your way. It silences negativity. It's a reminder that you don't really know what you're capable of until you put everything you've got on the line. It makes the impossible feel at least a little more possible. What if is the power and permission to face down your darkest demons? Your light enables them to see the contours of their own prison, their own self limitations. But if they are truly the great people you always believed them to be, their jealousy will evolve, and soon their imagination might hop its fence, and it will be their turn to change for the better. All of them were hard as nails and among the very hardest working people I've ever met, including and especially the women. None of them ever complained. I love this line. I love being around people like that. At 43, I'm running faster now than I ever have, and I don't need any tape or props for my feet. When I was 33, I ran at an 8 minute 35-second per mile pace. Now I'm running 7 minutes and 15 seconds per mile very comfortably. I'm still getting used to this new, flexible, fully functioning body and getting accustomed to my new self. Your willingness to go the distance in the hardest of times made me better in the hardest of times. So I'm gonna stop sharing this for a moment, go back to you guys, because this chapter is called What If. Now, I want to share with you my own what if. There's no challenge here. I just added this. So I waited a bit. If you notice the upload date, right? So now it's March 10. I waited until today so I would have the integrity to share what I'm about to, my own what if. Now, I'm curious also to see, to witness your own what if moments. Now, for the sake of sharing, since I'm here live, the only thing I have control of is myself, my own life. If you go back to episode one, like the very first challenge, I wrote down three things over here. So, in that challenge, become independent. set up financial freedom, do my first marathon. I'm not asking you to do all of them right now. You can pick one. So let me pick one out of this over here. Let me pick this. Boom. So I got this one. Now, I don't mean to say like do it tomorrow. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to end this episode by applying all of the lessons of Can't Hurt Me from the cookie jar. So if I do this one, do my first marathon, can you just do a marathon tomorrow if you've never trained for it? Maybe not, right? So I attempted my very first half marathon, 21K, 21 kilometers. So last year, April 2024, it is it's March 10, 2025 today, this morning, 11:14 a.m. So the cookie jar means every walk. I don't even mean run because I did try to run like sub 1 hour, 10 kilometers, and I did it finally recently. Every walk, not just run, is a cookie that brings you closer to doing something crazy that you wrote down, something impossible that you want to make possible. What if I could actually pull it off? So the next lesson is the 40% rule. So I did a half marathon, 21K. So 42K is double it. But the 40% rule says sometimes you can actually do even more than double. Now, one of the most helpful lessons I got from this is called the after action report. So I didn't realize that when I took notes of that first half marathon, I had a lot of notes there. So my body broke down, my knees got jacked, so I got injured after like 11 kilometers or like the first round, and then I gassed out. So I was pushing beyond like my physical capacity. It's very humbling also because what is harder? I'm very curious, people watching the live or the replay, to run a marathon or to walk a marathon. Now, I'm asking you, like, if you have the patience, even that pause. Some of you may have felt like that was forever, right? So it's like, I just want to run it. I just want to get this over with. Well, my lesson in the after action report was my impatience cost me. And that was just the half marathon. So, what makes you think you can finish something double without changing your strategy? So, in a nutshell, like what I'll do right now here is stop the talking. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to share my screen again very quickly to end this episode. Let's get to this. Boom, over here. Over here. All right. So this one was just shared like a few hours ago, 8:30 a.m. And I'm going to share my screen one last time before I end this episode. There we go. So let me adjust. Let me take this down for a moment. There we go. So to end the episode, what is your what if? Now, I already showed you one of them is do my first marathon. Now, it's very intentional. I didn't say run my first marathon just by the pictures you might see over there already as a spoiler. So I did this yesterday. This was Sunday. And then I started at night, evening, like 7:39 p.m. And then I just finished a few hours ago, 6:15 a.m. So what I did was, boom, in a nutshell over here, did you do it? Well, that's the proof, what you see right now. What was your half marathon? I actually did it faster. I did my time faster walking than I did it when I was running. And then I got injured. My knees got jacked. I gassed out. I discovered that there was a pace even slower than walking. So it's like limping. And then some of you who look very close, this is the 40% rule. 21K. If you double that, that's 42. But maybe you could go just a little more, just a little longer to your limit, which I did. And I felt my limit. I felt my limit to the limit. So that's me starting, and then that's me ending. So again, that was last night, 7:39 p.m. Sunday, March 9, 2025. And then Monday, March 10, right? 6:15 a.m. That's me. If you look closely, you might see something also there. So people, I'm warning, like a little graphic. If you don't want to see blisters, stop the video now. And then those who want to see like the reality of it, I'll just show it like a second each. You could just pause if you want. So there you go. That's the after. So in between the toe as well. This is my other foot. It's like a colony of blisters started forming, and then some blood in between the big toe over there. So I'm gonna go back here and quickly just go through these notes over there for those who want to pause the video, read through it. So I applied all the lessons from the cookie jar, the 40% rule, the after action report over there. So super helpful these notes. If people are wondering why did you walk it instead of run it, and I really felt my limits. So instead of gassing out at 11 kilometers, I stretched it to 39K, and I was still able to finish, but I really had to push it. And if you want to push the envelope, the 40% rule, well, that's this. Hey, you did 42K. Can you do an ultra? So, an ultra marathon is anything longer, anything beyond a marathon. And you could see it down here. So, to end this, last thing I would share, like people would say, how about uncommon amongst uncommon? I don't know if anyone has ever done a marathon or further pushed it wearing eyelanders. So I'm gonna stop the sharing with this already. And before I end, I'll go back to you guys. What is your version? What is your what if? Right? What if you could pull off one of these? And right now, as of today, I could tell you, I'm gonna put a check mark over here. I just did one of them. Now I'm curious to witness your version. Thank you. I love you. And I will see you next time.